Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are in the world. I hope you are all well. I am here to record the testimony of Brother Kash, who, as you might guess by the title, is a Muslim who's become a Christian. It's a part of a growing trend, and I feel it's important to document is, other people to recognize that they too can become Christian. And because I have zero coordination about these things, I do recognize that I have also got another program premiering work at the corner, and that just goes to show that I don't have enough time to plan these stuff. So apologies about that, and I guess the rest of you will be catching up with us once that one has finished. A couple of notices before we get into this. The first thing is to let you know that next week on Monday, I will be doing another live stream joined by some very esteemed academics, and we will be talking about the environmental crisis and a Christian response. And we really want to welcome any skeptics who want to come onto that show to challenge these scholars and learned people, and to discuss this issue, because I know that there is a whole vein of people out there that are skeptical about climate change. If you appreciate the work that I'm doing and you like this channel, please do remember to subscribe. Please do remember to like the live stream, and please do remember to share the videos on our channel. That helps the channel a lot, and do comment. We appreciate your comments. And finally, if you want to support the work that I do, in the comments I'll drop off the details of how you can support, but it'll also appear in the description box after the live stream is finished. But you can also find links in other videos where you can support the work that I'm doing to allow me to become a full-time evangelist and to do evangelism full-time. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Brother Kash, and then we'll about his testimony. So, peace be you, Brother Kash.
Hey, brother, how are you? I'm blessed, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Now, I didn't tell you this off screen because I forgot. But usually I invite the guests to open up with a prayer from the Psalms. So I'd invite you to pick whichever Psalm is your favorite and to read that Psalm all the way through, and that will be our opening prayer before we begin.
Sure. No problem, man. I'd love to choose one. Just give me one moment.
That is fine, and that'll give me a chance to get the links for anyone who wants to support the channel.
I'll start with Psalms 91.
Okay, bro. If you want to read it all the way through.
So this is what the Lord says. Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you will build for me? Where is my resting place be? Has not my hand made all these things? And so they came into being, declared the Lord. These are the ones I look on with favor, those who are humble and contribute in spirit, and who tremble at my word. But whoever sacrifices a bull is like one who kills a person, and whoever offers a lamb is like one who breaks a dog's neck. Whoever makes a grain offering is like one whose presents pigs blood, and whoever burns memorial incense is like one who worships an idol. They have chosen their own ways, and they delight in their abominations. So I also will choose harsh treatment for them, and I will bring on them what they dread. For when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, no one listened. They did evil in my sight and chose what displeased me. Hear the word of the Lord, you who tremble at his word, your own people who hate you, who exclude you because of my name, have said, let the Lord be glorified, that we may see your joy. Yet they will be put to shame. Hear that uproar from the city. Hear the noise from the temple. It is the sound of the Lord repaying the enemies for all they deserve. Before she goes into labor, she gives birth. Before the pain comes upon her, she delivers a son. Who has ever heard such a thing? Who has ever seen things like this? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment? Yet no sooner is Zion in labor that she gives birth to her children. Do I bring to the moment of birth and not give delivery, says the Lord? Do I close up the womb when I bring to delivery, says the Lord? Rejoice with Jerusalem, be glad for her. All you who love her, rejoice greatly with her. All you who mourn over her, for you will nurse and be satisfied at her comforting breast. You will drink deeply and delight in the overflowing abundance. For this is what the Lord says. I will extend peace to her like a river, and the wealth of the nation like a flooding stream. You will nurse and be carried on her arm, and dandled on her knees. As a mother comforts a child, so I will comfort you, and I will be comforted over Jerusalem. When you see this, your heart will rejoice, and you will flourish like grass, and the hand of the Lord will be made known to his servants. But this fury will be shown to his foes. See, the Lord is coming with fire, and his chariots are like a whirlwind. He will bring down his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For with fire and his sword, the Lord will execute judgment on people, and many of those slain will be by the Lord. Those who concentrate and purify themselves will go into the garden, following one who is among those who eat flesh of pigs, rats, and unclean things. They will meet their end together, and the one they follow, declares the Lord. And I, because of what they have planned and done, am about to come and gather the people of all nations and languages, and they will come and see my glory. I will set signs among them, and I'll send some of those who survive to the nations, to Tarshish, to Libyans, to Lydians, famous, to Tubans and Greece, and to the distant lands, and that have not heard of the fame and see my glory. They will proclaim the glory among the nations, and they will bring all the people from all nations to my holy mountain in Jerusalem as an offering to the Lord. On horses, in chariots and wagons, and on mules and on camels, says the Lord. They will bring them, and the Israelites bring their grain and offering. to the temples of the Lord in the ceremonially clean vessels, and I will select some of them also to the priests and the Levites, says the Lord. As the new heaven and the new earth that I make will endure before me, declares the Lord, so will your name and descendants endure. From one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all mankind will come and bow before me, says the Lord. And they will go out and look on dead bodies of those who rebelled against me. The worms will eat them, will not die. The fire that burns them will not quench, and they will be loathsome to all mankind. Amen.
This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Thank you so much, Brother Kash. Now, let me just grab this info here so that I can put it into the chat every now and then. Started. Okay. Right then. So, thank you again for so much giving us your time. As you know, you've already had a chance to see the questions that again are asked that allow you to just sort of gather your thoughts and to sort of put together a sort of framework rather than trying to make answers upon the hoof. You obviously, I know some of the backstory, so some of the questions assume that backstory just for the sake of the audience. You told me that you grew up in a mixed marriage home, and that your father was a Muslim. So under Sharia law, many Muslims would argue that made you a Muslim, and certainly there's been examples in places like Jordan where children were Christian, practicing Christian, raised by their Christian mother after a divorce, and then Jordanian law said that no, these children are Muslim, and forcibly removed them from their mother raised by their Muslim father. And so, with that in mind, I have no shame in saying that you're a Muslim who's become a Christian. But we're going to dig into that obviously in a bit more detail. Now, bear with us. Okay. So what would you say that your life was like then, growing up in that kind of setting?
Well, my mum and my dad, my mum's a Hindu, my dad's a Muslim, right? My mum married my dad. I think a lot of it, she was not aware of what she was getting involved in when she married my dad. She went through a pretty difficult time whilst she was married to him. Like, she was forced to change her name. And also she wasn't really allowed to see her mum my dad was putting a lot of stops to her doing things that she would want to do. So she had to live a life that was very much in a box, so to speak. Me growing up, I only experienced about 2 years of that growing up because my parents divorced fairly quickly once I was born. And growing up, whilst my parents were separated, and I used to go visit my dad. My mum had left the faith of Islam by this point when she divorced my dad. She pretty much went back to being a Hindu again. But every weekend or every other day when I would see my dad or talk to him, he would always put it in my mind that I was a Muslim. I identified with it because of what he said. And also he put it in my mind that we were stronger. We were the best, basically, and that we were above everybody. I had that idea in my mind growing up. And the self-righteousness I had in feeling like I was a Muslim, because of even when I used to go to school, and talking to people, I used to feel I've got something here because my dad's told me it. You know what I mean? My mum, on the other hand, she used to always tell me, like, just respect people. And my mother, for instance, she has every single religious ornament you can possibly think of in her household. So she was never like, she's like, always lead to God. That's the type of ideas that she has in that respect. It was to say the least, it was very confusing at times, because my mum was saying one thing, but then I was seeing my dad. I was looking to my dad whenever he was around. And also my mum's sister, she married my dad's brother. So my mum's sister married my dad's brother. So two brothers married two sisters. My mum's sister stayed a Muslim. And I would almost call her a second mother, because I ended up living with her during my late teen years. And it was at this time, when I was living with her, I started to literally look into the faith of Islam a little bit more. And when I mean look at it with a little bit more of a identify with it more so, because I was living in a Muslim household at this point. Like, my mum's household wasn't a Muslim household; it was kind of like mixed. But my aunt, it was. So I got a different type of understanding there. But everyone in her household was all women, so it was very different to what you would consider your dad being there and your mum being there, so to speak. So yeah, it got to a point as well. I remember whilst I was living there, being 18, 19, 20, I was asking questions about a number of things, because I was always told, one of the things that my dad was telling me growing up is that Islam is the fastest growing religion. He was telling me that there's only one Quran. It's the word of Allah, and that word was delivered by Muhammad. And I always thought, wow, man, this is like, I always got taken aback by everything that he was saying, things that I felt were indisputable at that time. And I thought, okay, it might make a bit of sense. But as I grew older, I started to ask questions, and the answers that I was getting for those questions had holes in them. Now, what I mean by that is, one of the things that made me think, hold on a minute, Islam seems a bit strange, is when they used to speak about, and this was the first thing that I noticed, when they mentioned that Abraham built the Kaaba. Now, the problem that I had with that is that I'd done a bit of, in primary school and in secondary school, we were told a number of things about Abraham, and even in religious studies. And I'd done a bit of research into it. And it was quite clear that the Abraham of the Bible, and even of the Torah, he did not reside in the Meccan origin. Like, there's no historical evidence of that. Like, zero. There's no indication of it at all. And that made me question things. And then I realized, as I grew older, this is a few years down the line, that the practice of pilgrimage in Mecca was practiced way before Muhammad even came to Arabia. So it made me think, hold on a minute, this seems something doesn't make sense here. And I decided at that point that I was not interested in religion, period. I went heavily into New Age at that point. And when I say New Age, I started to meditate and looking at looking at a lot of self-reflection and personal development, all that type of stuff, which was okay at the time. But it didn't fill in, it still left me with a void. And I got to a point where I was just like asking all these questions, even when I would ask my family always looked at me, because I was not saying I was a Muslim at this point, because even though I would ask them questions around this, and they would turn a blind eye to it. When I'd ask them questions about it, they wouldn't really, the answers that they would give me was almost, it had a level of bias around it, because they identified culturally with Islam. They looked at it, it's so embedded, so deep rooted in their way of being, that it was very difficult for me to even have a critical conversation with them and have them look at certain things. So at that point, in my mid-20s, like I said, I got heavily into New Age. I was doing a lot of drugs at the time, taking psychedelics, because this is what things that New Agers do.
Just before you get into that part of your life, sticking with your home life, did you I've got the impression that and correct me if I'm wrong, I've got the impression that your father kind of taught you you're a Muslim as an identity, but from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like he gave you much Islamic education. Is that fair?
Yes, that's
Did he teach you how to
100%
do the
fair.
salah? Did he teach you about, you know, the hadiths?
No,
So he
that's
taught
stuff
you you're a
I learned.
Muslim,
That's
Muslims are
it.
better, but that's about all he kind of taught you.
That's it. So it was like I was told I was a Muslim growing up, but I never. I thought, hold on a minute. If I'm being told I'm a Muslim, it comes a point where you think, let me research into this. Let me read up about it. And
And
that's
when he was
what I
teaching you, yeah, and
what was he
when he
teaching
was
me?
teaching, when he was teaching you, you know, that Muslims are superior, that Muslims are stronger, that Islam's the fastest growing religion, was that all in the UK?
All in UK, yes. Everything that's happened.
Right.
This is all here,
Okay.
UK based.
Because it's something that we encounter a lot. This kind of supremacist attitude, and it's the fact that people don't seem to click onto the fact that it's being taught in homes is quite a ring. But the thing that I want to ask you is, in your home life, with your auntie who's the second mother, or with your father, did they give you any kind of impressions about Christianity? And if they were, what were they?
I never really had anything that was taught about Christianity. All I was told by my aunt and by her daughters was that Jesus was a Muslim, that he's in the Quran, and that
Yeah.
he that's what I was told, and that he's a messenger of Allah. So they said that to me. That's the only indication I had, because I grew up in primary schools back in the day. I don't know about now, but we used to sing hymns and sing, and we used to learn about Christ back then. So that's the only exposure per se I had of Christ back then as a child. But
So
the
it's
only
from
thing,
school.
yes, from school, but from them I would hear that Jesus was a Muslim, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. That's what I thought. I didn't actually know what they meant by that, but later on in my life, I done my own study and my own research, and found out that the Jesus of Islam is a completely different person to the Jesus of the Bible and the historical Jesus.
Okay, and I take it that the school education didn't leave much impression on you. Clearly, that the Christian exposure in schools did as useful as his job as for you as it did for everyone else. So, what was it then? Because I know you were just about to touch on this, and I had to sort of drag you back a bit. But what was it then that led you to abandon any sort of connection to Islam?
I think it was, I can't remember which hadith it was. One of my friends who used to be a Muslim, yeah, because I used to work with him. He used to be a Muslim, and bear in mind, I'm in New Age at this point. He stepped away from Islam, and he was heavily into reading the hadiths, and he liked to debate people. He'd go online and just start debating people. He showed me a hadith where I can't remember which one it is. It's when Muhammad attacked the Jewish tribe, and he captured. He murdered the husband and took his wife.
Sophia.
Sophia, that's it. So I read up about that, the Battle of Khaybar, it was, right? So I looked at that Battle of Khaybar. I looked at it as a very tragic story. I was like, just to give you guys a bit of a backstory of what that hadith is. There was a talk of a Jewish tribe that were going to commit treason against Muhammad and his cronies, I should call them. And what happened? Muhammad attacked them before they attacked him, and he captured all the women and children, and the men he was torturing. He was killing all the men, and he captured the two main people. He said to the leader of the tribe, I think it was the Sophia's husband, where's the war booty? And he wouldn't tell him. So he said, I will torture you if you don't tell me. The guy still does not tell him. And Muhammad then proceeds to torture him. Whilst this is going on, I might be getting this wrong if it's before or after. One of Muhammad's soldiers comes up to him and he says, "Can I take one of the women for a slave girl?" And Muhammad says, "Choose whichever one you want." He goes ahead and chooses the most beautiful one, which happens to be Sophia, and who happens to be the wife of the man that Muhammad is torturing at this point, right? One of Muhammad's other followers sees this woman and sees that she's so beautiful, and he goes to Muhammad. He says, "Oh, Apostle of Allah, he's taken this woman, but she's the most beautiful. You should be having her." Muhammad then orders for this lady to be brought to him. he then sees her and he says to his soldier, "Go and choose another woman. This one's for me," basically. Not in those words, but you can find the hadith yourself. I think we should get that hadith up for everybody.
It's in Sahih al-Bukhari.
Yeah,
I think.
and then what happens after that? Muhammad's then proceeding to torture this man, her husband, and then the guy does not give in and tell him where everything is, so he beheads him and kills him. All the men and children got killed. All the men, anyone who didn't have who had pubes, basically, was killed, right, and beheaded. Right. And I thought, okay, that's what they would consider a man back then. But I thought, okay, this is crazy, right? And then on top of that, I saw that the woman, Sophia, married Muhammad later on. He gave her a choice. You can either be my slave girl or you could be my wife. Now, my argument to this whole situation, which I brought up to my Muslim family, is that how can you look at this man? Because clearly he's carnal. He's looking at a woman as an object, number one. And also, don't you think that Sophia would have been fearful after witnessing her husband being killed? And furthermore, the people who were going to commit treason at that time weren't the whole tribe. It was just 2 people. So why does the whole tribe need to be wiped out? So I was like, there was all these questions that I was asking, and the answers I was getting just weren't really making sense to me. And I was like, I can't. And then furthermore to that, I was then reading up about how Muhammad acquired some of his wives. That's just one of them. But the marriage and the flowering of Aisha, who was a prepubescent girl, was just absolutely, I had no answer to that, because Muslims would say to me, oh yeah, it was at that time, she had hit puberty at this point. But if you look at what she was doing, Aisha was playing with dolls when she was taken from her swing to Muhammad's house. Now, playing with dolls as a child, it's okay, right? In Islam. But if you're an adult, once you've hit puberty, playing with dolls is considered idolatry under Sharia. Now, if Aisha is playing with dolls and then she's taken to Muhammad's house to consummate the marriage, surely there's a question to be asked there. And then if you go back to the Quran and you find that it says that you can, marry a prepubescent girl, So I started to piece all these things together. I thought, this doesn't make sense, man. This seems like it's a cult created around somebody who had a lot of carnal desires, very fleshy. So it didn't really sit well with me. I thought women aren't below me. I look at them because that's how I felt Islam was. I looked at the fact that men could have 4 wives and a woman could only have one husband, for example. And I don't know. I was told a number of other things as well, but I haven't done my own research in regards to it. I don't like to say things here. I won't say things here that people have told me unless I've looked at it myself and I've backed up. I've got other things as well, which I haven't researched yet. But just those things alone, I can go into more detail. Just those things alone just made me think, nah, this isn't for me. So I wasn't exposed to Christianity at this point, right? I didn't even know.
That's fine. We're not going to get onto that part of the story just yet. But
yeah,
how did you? So you obviously, you started asking the kind of questions that a person asks when they are choosing their faith. You started looking into it. You find these horrible examples from Muhammad's own lifetime, which incidentally was the reason when I considered Islam, I rejected Islam for the same reasons, because Muhammad was just reprobate. But how did your dad and your auntie and your other Muslim family react to you abandoning anything to do with Islam, even in title and name?
Wow. Okay.
Or did they not know?
No, my dad's brother. I'll tell you what happened. My dad's brother. My family, the women, they were moderately okay. They weren't okay, but they were like thinking I would see sense per se one day. Yeah. And my dad's brother, on the other hand, I remember I was staying at my grandmother's house one time, and he said to me, "There's nothing Islamic about you." Just said that to me one time, right? And I was 19 years old. And I go, "I'm not a Muslim." And he goes, "What?" Because you're not. He literally kicked me out of the house, out of my grandmother's house, because I said I wasn't a Muslim.
Wow.
He was very borderline violent with me. He was very just saying, how can you reject he was trying to discredit my mum's religion and stuff, my mum being a Hindu. But I never identified with Hinduism anyway. But I just said, I'm not This is what my argument was with him. I said, listen, I can't say I'm a Muslim if I haven't practiced it. That's what I was saying to him, just to kind of protect myself, because it was getting quite. And one thing I learned even from a young age, I won't say something unless I feel it, unless I believe in it. You won't hear me say it. So, and I believe that's integrity. So I wouldn't say it like I'm a Muslim just for the sake of him getting off my back. Why would I do that? I'm not going to lie to somebody.
But it's interesting. His reaction is the reaction that we've catalogued in lots of other talks with lots of other ex-Muslims who, when they renounce Islam, and these include practicing Muslims as well, they've suffered this same kind of abuse that you suffered, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that, Kash. I really am.
It's funny now, because now it's as a man, me and my uncle, we're okay now, but he sees that I'm a Christian. I talk to him about Christ, and I think he sees. We'll get to that anyway. I'm sure
we'll get to that. Yeah, let's not jump ahead. Let's pick up the story thread by thread. So anyway, so he kicked you out your grandmother's house. What else happened?
So I was at my grandmother's house. I was back and forth at this point of all over the place. So I was going through a bit of a turbulent time in my late teens, early 20s. When I moved back in with my aunt, when she would see me, for example, drink wine or anything like that, she would always make the odd comment. Or she would see me having tattoos, for example. I remember I got tattoos. And my mum's brother, who was a Muslim as well, he converted to Islam. I remember there was one time I overheard them talking about me in the kitchen, and my aunt was talking about me having tattoos, and I heard my mum's brother, him saying that I'm gonna burn in hell because I've got tattoos. I was like, what? I was like, who's this guy to say I'm gonna burn in hell? Like, what? Who is this dude? That's what I was thinking. I was 20 years old at the time. And I thought it's interesting. You're basing your judgment of me based on tattoos. Are you kidding me? That's what I was thinking in my head. And then also he was having a go at me because I was celebrating my birthday, because my cousin wanted to do something for me for my birthday. And I don't know if this is cultural, but my mum's brother, he became quite a radical Muslim, like proper. So I think he was like, I shouldn't celebrate my birthday. And I was like, why should I not? If someone's doing something nice for me, I'm not going to reject it. And this is back then, right? So this is before I even come to know Christ. So it was quite a confusing time, because I was feeling like as if I was being shunned in one way, but I was always on my own anyway. I always felt like, I don't identify with this, and I'm not going to mix in with someone just for the sake of mixing in to feel like I'm part of something if it doesn't feel right to me. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I get it.
The funny thing is, Bob, I would just to add some more context to this. I remember my cousin, my uncle's daughter. This is my mum's sister's daughter, the one I was living with under her mother's roof. She became quite radical in Islam as well. And when I would ask her these questions about Muhammad, she was saying he was such a great man, that he used to play sport with his wives. He'd do this. And she goes, I wish I had a husband like Muhammad. I'm thinking,
no, you don't. No, you don't. A wife-beating sex slave, definitely not someone you want as a husband.
But it's funny. But I found it quite confusing that how people are not able to see this. Like it's because it's so deep rooted into people's culture, into their way of life, into their way of being. I'm like, this just doesn't. It's just crazy.
I get it. I have these arguments, as you know, all the time at the corner, but I don't want to get distracted into that conversation. I want to continue to draw out the story. So tell us, you know, what did life? I can tell that you were going through a bit of a chaotic moment in your life at this point. But tell us a little bit more about what life looked like post-Islam, what you were getting into, what kind of things you were up to. Kind of what did your life look like once you were living your own life, as it were?
I was living in the world at this point. I was like going out to clubs, partying, doing drugs at the time. I was seeing the people I wanted to see, doing what I wanted to do, living recklessly almost, right? Not having direction. I was almost rebelling as well against everything, like not wanting to have anybody tell me what I can and can't do anymore. I want to live my way. And I I kind of flew off the hinges in some respects, but I get brought back, and that was it really. I think there was one point when I stopped doing drugs, I started to get heavily into fitness. I started to work in a gym, working out regularly. I was into New Age as well, as I said before. So I'd go to like the Brahma Kumari, which is in Willesden Green, and meditate and stuff like that. Go through their courses. I don't know if you ever heard of Brahma Kumari, but
no, never heard of it.
Yeah, they have meditation courses. I was doing that. I was doing all this other stuff, and then that was it really. I was living a life where I kind of lived the way I wanted to live. Not but based on, again, I had that idea in my head that a good person, that's all I needed to be. I didn't need to, all I need to be is just focus on the good that's within me, to make sure that I did believe in God. Bear in mind, I didn't reject the idea that there was a higher being, because I didn't believe that being was created from nothing. I believed there was a creator, but I didn't think it was the creator of Islam. I didn't believe it was the God of Islam that was the creator of all things. I didn't believe that. So I wasn't really exposed to anything biblical at this point. It was more believing that I looked at it as going to a supermarket and picking out this bit from that religion, that bit from that religion, and I made my own understanding, so to speak. And that was it really, man. Yeah.
Right, fair enough. I mean, so we could rename the title of this video Muslim become Hindu become Christian, or Muslim via Hindu become Christian. So what how did Christianity then sort of appear in your horizons? How did Christianity start emerging into your life?
It's quite a supernatural encounter I had. And when I say that, I was riding my bike to work one day. I used to work at Virgin Active in Chelsea, and I was riding my bike. I got hit by a car, and I went flying face first into the ground, practically broke my wrist, this wrist hair. And I went to the hospital. They put a cast on me. And at this point, bear in mind, I was very much into going out and partying and having fun and all the rest of it. And after 3 weeks of wearing this cast, I was getting annoyed of having to wear it, because Notting Hill Carnival was coming up, and I used to love going to Carnival back then. I used to love just going there and just doing obscene things. And I cut off the cast, not realizing that my wrist was still badly broken. So I put a boxing hand wrap over it just to give it some support. Because I couldn't do this to it, barely do this. I couldn't rotate it because it's excruciating pain, and my wrist was visibly swollen. So I'm walking through Notting Hill Carnival on the very first day, which was a Sunday. I was stone cold sober. I was walking through by Kensington Temple Church in Notting Hill. If any of you know that church, I was walking by there. And a friend of mine who was with me, we asked some random guys for direction. They looked like security, but they happened to be evangelists, right? I go, where's this place? And the guy said the guy was from Australia, but he goes, I don't know where you want to go, but what's wrong with your wrist, mate? And I go, I got hit by a car about 3.5 weeks ago. I go, it's broken. And he goes, do you want me to use the power of Jesus Christ to heal you? And I'm thinking, what's this guy talking about? I wanted to just laugh in his face. And I was everyone else was kind of picking up on me, like taking the Michael out of everything, right?
Yeah.
And he picked up on my reluctance, said, listen, he goes, listen, you got nothing to lose but a broken wrist. Let me just pray for you and we'll see what happens. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's see how much of a fool this guy makes himself out to be. I'm doubting everything at this point, right? And he takes off the wrap. He puts on anointing oil, takes it out of his knapsack, anointing oil on both sides of my wrist in the shape of a crucifix. And then he holds both sides of my wrist and he begins to pray. And he's praying. And again, I've never heard this type of prayer before, because he's praying. I'm like, okay. And he's using the name of Jesus. He keeps on saying that, in the name of Jesus, right? And then I'm like, okay. And again, I was feeling a sense of peace around the whole prayer. I didn't feel scary or nothing. And my friend who was with me, he witnessed this all. So he saw it all. He's an Orthodox Christian, right? He witnessed this all. And at the end of the prayer, because he wouldn't allow no one to touch me whilst he was praying for me. At the end of the prayer, he said something, and then he pulled like this, right? But he didn't pull nothing physically, pulled. And I felt like a cold rush go through my wrist. And he let go, and he goes, "How's your wrist?" My wrist, bro, was completely healed, like 100% healed. I had full
Thanks be to
movement back.
God.
Amen. Had full movement back in my wrist. Swelling completely disappeared. Oh boy, swelling completely disappeared. Yeah, and I was like, "What did?" I'm just taking me back to that point now. How excited I got
Our
when I
God
saw that.
lives, man.
Yeah, man.
Our God lives.
Whoa, what did you just do? He goes, "That wasn't me. That was God working through me." He goes, "God's got a very special plan for your life." And he got me to say the prayer of salvation right there and then. And again, I went out and just carried on partying at this point. I took his number. And bear in mind, I've just finished university at this point. So I'm about to travel the world and teach English in Thailand, right? So I've got his number now. And I would go to, after this whole event had happened, I was telling everyone about it. I tell my family about it. And they kind of just looked at me as, "Oh, that's just Kash, the one who's just gone off the rails a little bit." That's how they look at me, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't listen to
It's
anything I
gone
was saying
crazy
to them.
now. The drinks have finally got to him.
And then when I remember I was going to work, and I was telling the doctors that would come in my gym, because I'd work in a gym right next to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. So I'd have doctors come in, and I'd say to the doctors, I'd be like, "Oh, this is what happened the other day, mate. Look at the guys would laugh. They would be like, "Oh, if this guy's got these special powers, why doesn't he come down to A&E and heal everyone?" And I thought that's a good point, right? I thought, "Oh, that is a good point."
It's a
Yeah,
fair
it is
question.
100%. So I presented that question to the gentleman who healed me. When it wasn't him, it was Christ working through him. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, amen.
And he showed me. Told me, he goes, "Look, it doesn't work like that." He goes, "What happened when I saw you? The Holy Spirit entered me and said, I need to help this man." That's what it was. He goes, God's got a very special plan for your life." And he also backed up what he did with scripture. He backed up what the miracle that was performed that day. He backed it up with scripture of miracles that were performed in the Bible through the name of Yeshua, through the name of Jesus. So I was like, hold on, this is dating back to the time of those times, right? So I was again, he was trying to get me to go to his church, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not on it, man. This is like, I don't." Again, it's religion, isn't it? I was thinking religion. I'm not on that. I'm all good for it. I never liked religion. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because of what I was exposed to. Because I thought Christianity was, again, religion. That's what I thought. I went and traveled the world at this point. I left England. I went to live in Thailand. But whilst I was on my journey, I was meeting different people who happened to be Christians, but I was seeing how they were living, right? I ended up moving to China after that. And whilst I was in China, this is in 2013, 2014, 2015. Whilst I was in China, I went through quite a depressive state. I went through a very low point in my life at that point. I went through a very difficult time. And I gained a lot of weight at that point whilst I was there. And I happened to find, I'm happy about this because it saved my life at that point, because I would have died in China, I reckon. But I found a boxing gym whilst I was there. And the boxing gym happened to be run by Christians. It was funded by a Chinese man who gave his life to the Lord. And I was seeing how he was living, and he didn't want no glory. He was always giving God the glory. And also seeing how the coaches as well, they were from the Philippines, and they were Christians as well. And also the guy who was buying my healthy meals from, because I was in China, is such a bad place to buy get anything healthy. I was getting healthy meals through a Chinese Australian born Chinese guy who's become a dear friend of mine now. And he was a Christian as well, and he was married as well, and he was married very young. But I was seeing I was seeing the fruits of their life. I was seeing how they were living. I was like, man, these guys are pretty cool. So I was seeing it. Even my housemate was a Christian as well. But I wasn't thinking anything of it. But you know how God works. Like he's got something planned.
He's setting up all of his pieces to put you into checkmate. He's
So I come back to England at this point in 2016, and again, I'm still heavily into taking psychedelics and New Age. I'm still into this whole New Age movement and all the rest of it. I'm reading up about astral projection and words of vibration and all this other stuff. I'm reading up about it, right? Reading up about how words are spirit, the spirits behind words and stuff like that. I'm reading all this stuff, right? and I'm meditating for hours in my room, and it was getting quite intense. But I remember in 2018, April time, coming up to 4 years now, I went to a philanthropist event, right? And at this philanthropist event, there were these two gentlemen that came in, these two black guys that came into this event. And everyone was introducing themselves and saying who they are and what they do. And these two gentlemen, they come in and they start speaking about Jesus. But they're speaking about him. Check this out, bro. They're speaking about him in a way where I needed to hear at that particular point. Now, what do I mean by that? They're speaking about words of vibration. They're speaking about spirit is word and word is spirit. They're speaking about all these things. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. This is in the Bible. What were you talking about? So I went up to them after they introduced themselves. And I was like, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're talking about Jesus? And they started to tell me about Christ in a way where exactly the way that they were delivering their message was the exact way I needed to hear it. Now, at the end of the conversation that we had, at the end of that event, I offered to drop one of them home. And he said to me, Kash, he goes, listen, I was in prayer before we came here today. And we felt the Lord say to us that we need to come here. There's someone here for you today, for you to be speaking to, for you to deliver a message to. And we're certain it's you. After speaking to you, we thought it was someone else, but we know it's you. And I was like, dude, this is like mad. So then they gave me a new King James version of the Bible to download. And bro, well, I kid you not, I've never read the Bible before at this point, never. And I remember opening up the Word of God, and I felt as if what I was reading was within me. Now, what do I mean by that? I was feeling grace that I've never felt before in my life. I was feeling love that I've never felt before in my life. Nothing that I can explain, man. And then I was like, I want to give my life to Jesus, because Jerry would call me up. He would call me up and we'd talk. It's one of the guys, by the way. We'd call and we'd talk for hours just about the love of God. And he would tell me, he would really just pour into me. And I said, I want to give my life to Jesus. So he said, okay, we'll meet up for you. We'll meet up with you and we'll pray for you. So we did that. And bro, like when we did that, I can't explain to you what happened that day, man, because I would just be walking down the road and I'll be in my car, I'll be driving, and I'll just be crying my eyes out. But when I mean crying, not sadness, but just love that. Bro, man, I feel his love now when I talk about it, but it was just nothing like I've ever experienced before in my life. Like everything that I had been through as a child, it was like he was planning. He was always there for me, always, and it was just his grace that I felt that I've never felt before in my life. And I remember the church I was going to at that particular time was Hillsong Church, right? It was in the Dominion Theatre in London.
Yeah.
And when I was hearing sermons that were being delivered, I was just feeling like as if it was just speaking straight to my heart, exactly what I needed to hear at that point. And it was blowing my mind, man. I thought me becoming a Christian everything would be hunky dory at this point, right? Because now I know who Jesus is. Truly know who Jesus is, like the true Jesus. Because I had revelation. I would say when people speak about this, just to let you know, when I hear this from people, like revelation knowledge, that is when the veil is lifted from your eyes and you see the world from you see the spirits, you see everything, right? And I was like, whoa, man, I started to see things for what they truly were. And I remember me thinking that life was going to be easy. I was so wrong. I did not realize like how when you become a Christian, it's not just you become a Christian and that's it. It becomes it's a responsibility that you have, but at the same time, the enemy, the devil, does not want you to be saved. So what he will try and do, he'll try and bring you back to your old life. There'll be things that I would go to sleep at night and I would have night terrors. Like when I mean night terrors, I'd have things that would grab me, like try and strangle me. And I would call up the guys and ask them about this, and they would tell me like they would get me into prayer, get me to read Psalms, and just get me to really focus in on Christ. And I remember there was one day, and this is what really blew my mind, because I'm thinking at this point, did I make the right decision? Because I'm getting all these things happen to me, and I'm thinking this is just crazy. How can me becoming a Christian be like this, right? So I remember I went for a walk in the woods. It's a Sunday because I just woke up from a very, very nasty dream and very nasty experience. Like I had something grab me. And I went for a walk in the woods prior to church. And whilst I was in the woods, I cried out to Jesus. I was like, show me something. Like, have I made the right decision? Because I don't know what's going on here. Like, what's happening? Where are you? Like, show me something. Because I don't know what's going on right now. And I was willing to like take my life at one point. That's how I felt, right? I went to church that day. We're in praise and worship. At the end of the praise and worship session, before the sermon's delivered, the pastor comes on. Gary, his name was, from Hillsong Church at the time. He comes on and he stops everyone. He goes, can everyone feel the Spirit of God right now? I was like, yeah, we can feel God. We can feel. Everyone's going crazy. And he stops everyone. He goes, I feel like there's someone in this room that God wants me to speak to right now. He goes, you've just given your life to the Lord. You don't know if you're here or there. Like, and it's very confusing sometimes, but God wants you to know that you've made the right decision and he's with you. And he goes, that person sat in this direction over here. He points in my direction. And I just start weeping. I'm like, you heard my cry. When I called you, you heard me. And you just came and you spoke to me, man. I feel his presence now when I'm talking about it. Man, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind, man. And I was like, okay, I've made the right decision. And I'm not trying to say, hey, listen, it's been easy being a Christian. It hasn't, but I know.
We'll get on to that. I mean, you've actually answered a couple of the questions. I didn't want to break up the flow, but you've actually answered a couple of the questions that I was going to ask. And we will get on to some of the challenges. But what does your father and the Muslim members of your family think of the fact that you're a Christian now? How's your relationship with the Muslim members of your family?
So it's been quite interesting because I know they've been speaking. I knew they were speaking about me in their private sessions and saying this, that, and the other. Especially when I would be open and tell them the things I was struggling with, like these night terrors. And I remember on my social media, I would still give God all the glory. I'd still say Jesus Christ is King on my social media. Bear in mind my social media, right? I would speak. I would even speak. I even made a podcast talking about the grace of God. I did all these things, and I would always have them make the odd sly comment here or there, right? Like I would remember I posted something about different people in the Bible, how they were sinners, but God could still use those sinners. Like in the Bible, Noah was a drunk, but God still used Noah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember I had a couple of Muslims saying Noah wasn't a drunk, like saying stuff like that. I didn't want to get into a dialogue and get into a debate with anybody. I'm not going to bother on a. I thought in person maybe they'll bring it up, but they never would.
It's these magic human beings that are fully human and only human, but never seem to sin. You know, it's just
that doesn't work, bro.
Doesn't ring true at all, does it? It's kind of like
it's just. Anyways, what happened after that? I remember during lockdown. This is where it kind of got a bit mad because this is where it got a bit intense. During lockdown, I remember I wrote "Jesus Christ is King," and one Muslim gentleman wrote. At the bottom of my comment, Jesus isn't king, Allah is, and Jesus is the prophet of Allah. And I go to him, I go, show me. I wrote in under his comment, I'll go, bro, do me a favor, show me anywhere historically where it says Jesus is the prophet of Allah besides the Quran. I wrote that, no response, right? My cousin, my auntie's daughter, the one I was telling you about before, who said that Muhammad's the best, like the one I was mentioning. She then proceeds to write the Gospel of Barnabas. She writes that under it, right? Under, and I was like, and I wrote, and then we got into a big dialogue on a Facebook Messenger. And I said, look, I don't want to get into a debate with you here on social media, but we can have a chat face to face, no problem. And then she started to really like go at my faith as a Christian. And I thought, you know, something, I'm not going to debate with you here on social media, but I've noticed you've got to provoke. Muslims have a provocative spirit behind them where they think. And then she, when I said that to her, instead of focusing on the subject at hand, she then proceeded to attack something that happened in my personal life with my brother, to discredit me as being somebody eligible to deliver the message, the good news, thinking that I'm not, like, you know what I mean? Like something, a disagreement that me and my brother had, that does not make me any, I'm a sinner, yes. But anyways, long story short, I got quite annoyed at this point. At that particular time, I got quite annoyed because I was getting all these Muslims whenever I was speaking about Christ, and I can understand because I had a Muslim name at the time. It may have put a target on my back, meaning when I'm speaking about Christ, they then think, hold on a minute, he's not a Muslim no more. Let us go ahead and say this, that, and the other to him. So I got a bit annoyed at this point, and I cut a Facebook Live, and I literally just refuted everything about Islam at that point. I refuted Muhammad. I said straight up, I love my Muslim brothers and sisters, but I don't love your prophet. I said that. I said I don't love Islam. Straight up, I don't. This is me just being straight. And when I said that, it came out. It landed like a lead balloon with a lot of them. But I thought it's funny because you can come at me and say things about my faith and criticize me, but as soon as I do it to you, automatically I'm a bigot. You know what I mean? But I'm like,
the double standards, mate.
Yeah,
tell me about it. Every single week, I deal with those double standards completely.
That's what I'm trying to say. The superior it's the whole self-righteousness complex where they think that they're better than everybody else, and I'm like, I can sit here and I can ask a Muslim. I'm not as well-rounded in apologetics as you, Bob, but I know enough about Islam to refute anything that a Muslim would come at me and say. So at that point, I realized that I got into prayer around it, and I realized that I need to change my name. So I changed my middle and my last name to a Christian name, which I felt the Lord delivered to me. And I legally changed my name, and since I've done that, I haven't had nothing come up to me from any Muslims. So no Muslims are saying anything to me now. So I think that's worked.
And situation with your family, how is that? Because it's
I've put a boundary in place, meaning I do love my family. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want them to know every detail of my life anymore. I love them. I'll have them around my house and I'll cook them dinner. But there's certain energies and there's certain
attitudes.
Yeah, I don't particularly want. My dad, on the other hand, this is another story. So when I became a Christian, my dad would still say the odd thing to me about Islam, but I'd still tell him about what Jesus has done for me. I was like, Dad, listen, if it wasn't for Christ, because I went through a 10-year period of not talking to my dad, right? When I became a Christian, I was able to find forgiveness. I was able to understand what grace meant. And I was able to open my heart up to my father. And I called him up and I said to him, Dad, listen, we spoke. And I said, I love you. And I don't want to hold on to nothing from the past anymore. And we built relationships after that. And it got to a point. Yeah, but it's understanding what the word of God says about your parents. Like, you need to honor your mother and father, like you're giving them for a purpose. And I believe my dad will come to know the Lord at some point. But what happened when I became a Christian, and then when I changed my name, because publicly on social media it was said, like on my Facebook, it says my new name. My dad wrote underneath the name change statement, "Do you realize what you've done?" He wrote that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to need to have a chat with my dad. I'm going to have to call him up and talk to him and explain. So I called him up and I had a conversation. I was like, Dad, listen, I just caught up with him. I said, Dad, listen, I realized that you commented. I just wanted to talk to you man to man because I love you and I respect you. I just want to let you know why. And I'm telling him, and he goes, I'm really upset about it. I was like, Dad, why? And he explained to me. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, I've been getting a lot of backlash from Muslims when I speak about Christ. And then he was trying to talk over me. And I told him, I said, Dad, listen, you realize if I wasn't a Christian, if I didn't come to know who Jesus truly is, I wouldn't have a relationship with you. And he goes, if I knew you were going to turn your back on Islam, I wouldn't want you to speak to me. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's but harsh. I told him, I said, Dad, listen, it's cool, man. I go, look, end of the day, I love you. I go, but I've got to stand by what I know to be, which I know to be truth. And the funny thing is, he had lost his driver's license due to some obscene circumstance that he got himself into. And when he lost his driver's license, he hasn't been able to work because he relies on driving. He's a long-distance lorry driver. So God's been good to me. He's blessed me immensely over the last 2 years. I got me out of debt. I was in a lot of debt prior. I'm thanked by the grace of God, no longer in debt, and we're able to bless people without it hurting us no more. So I called up my dad one day, and he was, I could tell he was dealing with something. I could tell the spirit of poverty is probably around him. Like he's got debt collectors knocking on the door. I can't pay bills. So I just felt the urge to pour into him. And I called him. I was like, Dad, listen, give me your bank details. He goes, what? Why? And I was like, I wanna bless you. God's been good to me. I want to bless you. And he was so taken aback by that I was able to do that. That wasn't me. That was Jesus. Jesus has blessed me. And I've been able to, and I just said that to him. So I know I'm doing my duty and just chipping away. I know how, if I think about it, and I think about people in the Bible, how they were still sinners and God still used them and he still was able to pull them out of their sin. Like think about the Apostle Paul, right? The Apostle Paul, he was in the depths of his sin, and God can demonstrate that patience to still pull out him out of the depths of his sin and use him. He could still use that. My dad, it doesn't matter. So I need to have the mind of Christ, and this can go for anybody. We need to have God's patience when it comes to people, because people are always going to be doing their thing, but you just need to demonstrate who Christ is and just keep on being there for him, man. So that was that, man. I think now God's blessed me in so many ways. Like it's been a journey, but I think when you've been tested and you pull through and you still stick to it, even at and what I've noticed, Bob, even at in the valleys or at the mountaintops, we're still giving him glory no matter what, because we know who he is. We know where we're going. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I think it's wonderful that, you know, you're able to share a testimony of how you met the bigotry of your family against your Christian faith with love, you know, and I applaud you for it, and I celebrate for it, and I want to encourage everyone to pray for Kash, and pray for Kash's dad, and to pray for Kash's auntie, and to pray for did you say your cousin as well?
My cousins, and my mum's still not doesn't. My mum's my mum is another one as well. I want her to know who God is as well, who Jesus truly is, because it's
keep Kash's family in your prayers, because you know the great work that God has worked in Kash's life, we can hope one day to see celebrated with others in his family coming to the Lord as well. And I just want to, you know, I want to sort of ask about, for you, you know, what has been some of the challenges of you becoming a Christian?
I would say the biggest challenges that I've had is that the people that I used to hang out with don't want to hang out with me no more. Initially, but I realized, I would say
time
that
to
was
make new friends in the church.
I got new friends in the church, but I'd say there's a tangible experience of transformation, because I was if you had met me before, Bob, I used to use so many expletives, it was crazy. Like as soon as I became a Christian, it was like that my dialogue changed, like the language I used changed as well. I was like,
thanks be to God.
And I realized how powerful words are. So I would say things have definitely transformed. I'd say I've put a lot of boundaries in place in understanding what takes me away from God and what brings me closer to him. So the things that take me away from God, I try to just, and that's not to say I dislike anybody. It's just to make sure that I'm able to go into a room and affect that room rather than the room affecting me. And I'm getting to that point now where I'm becoming more and more stronger, because I'm around a lot of people who are sharpening me, and I'm sharpening them. But I would say the community that I've got now, the friends that I have now, we are the church anyway. I understand that. So I'd say my friends that I have now, the brothers and sisters that I've met through church or just through connecting and through the love of God, we've been able to like just do things together. Like we'll go on hikes together. We hang out. We have fun. Don't get me wrong. Church, it's not like we're different people. We're like normal people, but we demonstrate the fruits of the Spirit. That's all, right?
Amen.
And that's who Christ truly is.
Wonderful. So in sort of the last kind of question then, well, actually, I'll maybe just sit on this for a bit, because, you know, it kind of underscores for me the importance that whenever someone becomes a Christian or shows interest in the Christian faith, fellowships and churches, we need to rally around that person, because as you've demonstrated, when you become a Christian, you lost a whole bunch of people in your life that meant something to you, and the people that you enjoyed hanging around with didn't want to hang around with you anymore. And it just underscores for me the absolute importance of becoming a family to anyone who embraces the Christian faith, because it may very well be costing them their family and friends to make that decision. And with that in mind, I just want to ask you, and this is the sort of final question, how do you think Christians can help brothers like yourself who are coming from a similar background?
There's plenty of things. And when I mean plenty of things, there's things that I've, as men, for example, I believe I done something recently, a couple of months back, just towards the tail end of summer, the beginning of winter, called the Extreme Character Challenge, where men come together and we really just get into things that are quite deep. Now, when I mean deep, like the things that we get vulnerable as men, and we connect as men as well. We understand what it means to be a man. That truly means what it means to be a man, but in accordance to what the Word of God says, and
Amen.
what responsibility we have. So I'd say having a community of people, like, don't feel afraid to connect to people, because people are always going to be welcoming. Especially they should be welcoming, especially if they're Christians.
Should be
Definitely.
welcoming.
I'm not saying everybody is, but one thing I would say, do not, and this is a mistake that a lot of people do, is they look at the actions of a person and they label that as the whole ideology, how Christianity is, and it's not the case. If you look at the fruits of the Spirit, you look at what the fruits of the Spirits are. That's essentially what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be a disciple of Christ. So do you mind if I share the fruits of the Spirit with everybody if they don't know?
Yeah, but I do want you to stay to the question, which is how can other Christians help people from similar backgrounds? But please do share. Do share.
Like I said before, I would say the main thing you can do is go and get fellowship from other brothers and sisters, like connect to them. Don't be afraid to talk to people. I think at the end of church service, we always have like little get-togethers, networking time, where you can get to know other brothers and sisters, talk to them. There's also forums that you can join as well. Like now, the way the world is, you've got Clubhouse, you've got different things that you can jump on and just connect with different people. So I'd say there's never been a more easier time now, but what it requires is a bit of action on your part. So don't feel, oh, I need to do things alone, because you should be around other people, because having accountability, having people who can just lift you up, it's so important. It is. Like, especially if you're looking to build a family as well, and you want to build a family that's got Christian values and morals, it's important that you look for that in the right environment. You look for it at church, because there's nothing worse than having an unequally yoked relationship with somebody, and you've got someone from one faith and another. It's just going to mess things up. Like, you got to make sure you're staying in tune with what the Word says. So yeah.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
So you wanted to share the fruits of the Spirit. Do you want to just let people know what we talk about when we're talking about the fruits of the Spirit?
Yeah. So essentially, listen, as I was saying to Bob, like, we are the church. Like, me, you, when we give our life to the Lord, the Holy Spirit dwells within us. Our body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, right? So how you would know somebody if they are a disciple of Christ is if they're demonstrating the fruits of the Spirit, and that's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, all of these things, if you're demonstrating these, this is what it means to be a Christian. And sometimes we fall short of this. And there's nothing wrong with falling. Well, there is something wrong with falling short, but you should have accountability for it. So that's why I say, if you've got fellowship, if you've got someone you can share that with vulnerably, and tell them, say, listen, this is what I'm dealing with. You can then expose what you're dealing with, and you can then deal with it through prayer and through reconciliation, through lifting one another up. So it's these little things here I learned throughout my journey. And I learned throughout connecting to different people. And I'll tell you one thing as well. I would say, look to people whom are demonstrating this if you're looking to create a fellowship with them. If you're looking to
Amen.
create, because nothing worse than have people who say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian," but then they're not demonstrating any of this. They're doing the complete opposite. So
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you. I just want to give you the sort of final word, because there will be people that are watching this. I mean, I know the thing that's made me famous in quote marks is Speaker's Corner, and at Speaker's Corner I meet lots of insincere Muslims, but I also know that there are lots of sincere Muslims, generous, kind-hearted people who are genuinely looking for the truth and actually care about, investigating the truth. And there's also going to be other people who maybe have come from a sort of similar background, who are cultural Christians, or people that are sitting on the edge of the Christian faith looking in and considering whether they should also become a disciple of Jesus Christ. What would you say to those people, Kash?
I would say, listen, there's nothing wrong with being a good person. Yeah, being a good person is one thing, but ultimately, for you to understand what it means to have that bridge for you to get to heaven. Say, for example, you being a good person, being a generous and kind soul, there's still certain things within yourself that takes you away from entering the glory of God. In order for you to get to him, we need Christ. Christ is the equalizer. He's the 100%. He gets us to know what it means to have a personal relationship with the Father. So I would say those people who are looking to study truth, I would say, listen, what I did is I closed my door and I literally just opened my heart to him. And I asked him, I was like, if you're real, show me. And he did.
Amen.
So I think if you're sincere in your heart and you truly want to know who Jesus is, close your door, be alone, and just cry out to him. Say, listen, I've heard about you, but if you're really Jesus, if you're really who you say you are, just show yourself to me. Like, just show me. Let me experience you. Cry out to him, knocking on your door.
Amen. Thank you so much, Kash. You have blessed us with this wonderful testimony, and I am very grateful for you spending your time. I have the honor of knowing you, more than just in the context of capturing your testimony. I hope in that we're going to be friends for many a year going forward. I'm going to close in prayer. I'm just going to go grab my prayer book because, like with everything else today, I didn't get myself organized properly. So just bear with us 1 second.
No problem, brother. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll close in a psalm. Vide humilitatem. O consider mine adversity and deliver me, for I do not forget thy law. Avenge thou my cause and deliver me. Quicken me according to thy word. Health is far from the ungodly, for they regard not thy statutes. Great is thy mercy, O Lord. Quicken me, as thou art wont. Many there are that trouble me and persecute me, yet do I not swerve from thy testimonies. It grieveth me when I see the transgressors, because they keep not thy law. Consider, O Lord, how I love thy commandments. O quicken me according to thy loving kindness. Thy word is true from everlasting. All the judgments of thy righteousness endure forevermore. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay. God bless you, Kash. God bless you all. And I just want to say again, in closing, if you would like to support the work that I'm doing as an evangelist, please do click on the links that have been shared in the chat. It will also appear in the description box at the end in a few minutes when I put it in, or probably tomorrow. But you can find in any of the other videos on this channel the details by which you can support my work of evangelism. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos. Show your love to Kash in the comments. Don't forget to pray for his family. And on Monday, we're going to be doing another live stream with some learned professors and individuals talking about climate change. And I want to invite all skeptics to come and listen to that and to engage with the scholars on that topic, and anyone else who's interested to learn about that topic and how Christians can respond to it. God bless you and good night.
Thank you, Bob. God bless.